Hello! After the release of my video about the robot, I was flooded with questions about how to use the Metatrader tester. So I decided to make a detailed video tutorial. Watch until the end, I will explain everything in detail. How to make money on the stock exchange using a robot. You can immediately launch it in 2 directions and it will start generating profit right away. By the way, those traders who left me honest reviews, in the Telegram channel they launched the robot in exactly this way. However, overly aggressive settings can lead to a drawdown. To prevent this, you need to test it on historical quotes in the so-called strategy tester. Not everyone knows how to do this, so let me show you now. How to open the strategy tester in Metatrader 4. At the top, there is a panel with colorful buttons. If you hover your mouse over the button with a small magnifying glass, a tooltip will appear saying Strategy Tester. You can also press the Ctrl+R key combination. After clicking this button, the Gishi Strategy Tester panel will appear at the bottom. It might not be fully visible. Find the horizontal line with your mouse, and when you hover over it, an arrow pointing in different directions will appear. By clicking on it with the left mouse button, you can drag to increase or decrease the size of the strategy tester. All the buttons on it need to be visible. It should look like this. Like any other panel, the strategy tester can be pulled out from the bottom and moved to any convenient location. To do this, grab the left field where it says Tester with the left mouse button. Drag it to any other place. For example, you can place it in the center. I am more accustomed to working with the tester when it is at the bottom, so I will leave it there. Let's now go through all the buttons in order and understand how the tester helps us earn more. So the first thing we see is the selection window for an advisor or indicator. In Metatrader, you can test both indicators and advisors. We will only be testing the advisor. In Metatrader terminology, robots are called advisors or experts. It's all the same. These are synonyms. So we select the advisor. Next, we need to choose from the list the advisor that we have loaded into the terminal. In this case, MOX Dynamics. I have a separate video on how to install a robot in Metatrader 4. Be sure to watch it. Next, we select the instrument. This can be currency, stocks, indices, anything. On what we will test our robot. Here, this section is called Symbol. Accordingly, you select from the list and click. Next is the model section. Here, by default, it's set to all ticks. The most accurate method based on all the smallest available timeframes to generate each tick. There are also 2 other options. Here we leave it as default. If you want to learn more about how they differ, that's for professionals. You can go to the Help section. Here in the client terminal, there is an auto trading section under strategy testing. And in the settings section, there is a complete description of all the nuances. We won't delve into that now. We need to go over the main settings that will be useful for testing. Next, you must check the box Use Date. Testing occurs within a time range, so you need to select from which time to which time we will be testing. By the way, that video where the robot showed over 300%, I did the test in just 9 hours, but in fact, you can't select hours here, only the day. Let's say from October 5th to October 6th, you can manually stop the robot if you need to test for just a few hours. And so in the next window, we select the date. Here everything is simple. The only thing is that initially when you just install the terminal, the date will be set here. Most likely it's set to some year like 1970. So you don't have to scroll from 1970 to the current year. There's a life hack. There's a note at the bottom. Today it is active. If you click on it, the current date will be set. Thus, in the From field, you set the date from which you plan to start testing, for example, October 24th. And in the To field, the date until which you plan to test, for example, October 27th. Next comes an important point, the checkbox for visualization. If the checkbox is not checked, the robot tests very quickly and does not show on the chart how it is doing it. If you want to test the robot quickly, it's better to uncheck this box. But there is one remark. My robot, my X Dynamic, does not test with visualization turned off. Unfortunately, that's the case. Why? Because it is semi-automatic. To start it, you first need to press a button, buy or sell. And after you press it, you can no longer disable visualization. But there is a hack to overcome this. Perhaps this will also be useful with other robots. So keep watching, I will definitely explain. Now, what happens if you check the box? Visualization. After you press the start button, Metatrader will begin, let's say, visually playing back the quotes. You set for the time period you specified here in the Use Date field. If you test automatically, the robot will start testing immediately with the opening and closing of trades embedded in the algorithm. In this robot, after you press the start button, let's press it, the playback of quotes will begin, but trades will not open until you press the buy or sell button, or both buy and sell simultaneously. Look, I press the buy button, select a market order. And the robot immediately starts opening and closing trades, and we see this directly on the chart. After the visualization checkbox, there is a scale, with which we can control the speed of the quote movement. If we drag it to the left, the speed slows down accordingly. If we drag it to the right, the speed accelerates. And you can observe changes much faster. Next is the pause button, which allows you to stop for a while. Here I pressed the pause button and the robot testing was paused. Then we press this button again and the testing continues. Now a life hack on how to speed up this process. You can test part of the time period without visualization. To do this, you need to use the skip to button. You can select a specific interval, or you can skip the testing entirely up to 27 as we set without visualization. We press start and then press skip to. As we can see, the green bar at the bottom, which shows the testing process, starts moving faster. By pressing the stop button, we can interrupt the testing in advance. I press the stop button and that's it, the testing is finished. Now let's look at the options located on the right side of the tester. Well, first comes the Expert Properties button. We press it and the input parameters of this advisor open up for us. They are the same as those that appear when installing the advisor on the chart. Open another tab and I'll show you. How it is installed, we take it with the left mouse button. We drag our robot from the navigator panel onto the chart and we see that the input parameters open up. In this format, the robot's settings appear for installation on a real account for real trading. The same settings occur in the tester, only they are not called up using the Properties and Expert button. We press the button and here we set the value we need, the settings we need to make. To make it earn very well, I am constantly asked about this, and believe me, it's impossible to give the same answer for everyone. Each person has a different deposit, different income, and risk goals. Also, I simply don't have enough time physically to set it up for everyone. After my video was released, more than 30 people wrote to me asking for help with the settings, so I recorded a separate video. Be sure to watch it. By watching it, you can understand exactly what settings you need after you have set the ones you want. Next, you need to choose the period, which is the time frame. If you want to examine in more detail how the robot opens trades during market movements, you can choose the M1 time frame. Just keep in mind that the history of quotes, which is loaded in Metatrader, is not designed for long periods. That is, the M1 time frame can be considered for about a month maybe. If you want to test for 3 months, half a year, then it's probably better to choose M30, H1, such time frames. For those who are very meticulous, I will say that you can find quotes and minute data for several years, but for this, you need to write to the broker. The broker will send you the files in a reply email. These files will need to be installed in the terminal. Then you can get quotes for several years. But I can say from my experience that there is practically no point in testing the market for several years. None at all. The market is constantly changing, and what worked in the past no longer works in the present. Finding some exact repeating patterns that a robot could execute, which worked several years ago and still works now, is practically impossible. Therefore, it's best to test a robot and find some repeating patterns over a period of 3 to 6 months, no more. This is my personal opinion. Next is the Symbol Properties button. It doesn't need to be opened. It's the same as the specifications. Let's click it. We see the same window. We can find it in the specifications. Let's open any tool in the market overview. Select the specification. It's the same. This is for your general information. It doesn't affect the robot settings. Next, we select the spread. Why do we need to select the spread? The spread affects the trading results of the robot. The larger it is, accordingly, the less the profit. The smaller the spread, the greater the profit. But I wouldn't say it critically affects the profit. Rather, it's a setting to approximate the real market spread. Because if you sit down to test the robot, say in the evening with a cup of coffee, it might happen that at night the spread on some instruments widens. And if you choose the current spread, it will be inadequate for testing. It will significantly worsen the results. Knowing the average spread of the instrument, you can set it manually, and then the testing will be closest to the real market situation. If you are testing during the day when there are no significant news and the spread is not widened, then choose the current spread. And the last checkbox is optimization, which we do not use. If you want to study this point, you will find more information in the help section. We won't need it right now. We have finished with the main settings of the tester. You might have noticed that when the tester starts, a chart window opens, and it is not the same as mine. You might have a green chart on a black background, while mine is multicolored on a white background. How to make it look like mine? Very simple. The chart opens in a specific template. I have a separate video about the template, be sure to watch it. The tester also opens the chart in its own template, and there's a little life hack. You need to replace the pre-installed Metatrader template for the tester with your own. Accordingly, after you watch my video about templates, create your own template, save it under the name, and every time the tester opens a new chart, it will open it in your template. How to find out the results of robot trading testing? Let's see how it's done. We press start, that is, we launch the robot. We choose trading in both directions. Buy market, sell market. And we move the speed slider to the right. That's it. The robot started trading. We traded a little, let's stop the robot. We started with $1,000. And here in my information window, it shows that the total balance is $1,300, free funds are $1,168. So we started with $1,000, and in fact, we have already earned $168, which is almost 17%. Where can you see the results of the trades? Well, first of all, they are visible on the chart. These blue ones, dashed lines, the slanted ones indicate buy trades, and the red slanted dashed lines indicate sell trades. At the bottom in the tester, there are several tabs. We have covered the settings tab. Now let's move on to the results tab. We can expand it and see all the trades the robot has made. Here, just like in a regular trade history, the trade time, trade type, volume, and financial result are displayed. The next tab is the chart. On this tab, we see the movement of the balance, funds, and the number of trades. The blue line is the balance line, the green line is the funds movement line. In the lower section, there is information on each trade. For example, the very bottom section where you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 represents the serial number of the trade. That is, we see that a total of 40 trades were made. Each specific trade, if you hover the mouse over it, will show the volume, for example, LOD 0.20. There, the time will be displayed along with take profit and the result. This trade earned $5. For trade number 28, for example, $55 were earned. And accordingly, on the right, there is a vertical profitability scale. The next tab is the report. Here, there are more detailed summary data calculated by the computer. You can read and study them on your own. I just want to draw your attention to the point of maximum drawdown. And it is expressed here in dollars and percentages. That is, the maximum drawdown was $132, and it was about 12%. This is important for understanding what drawdown the robot reaches. Because if the drawdown is less than the profit, and the profit is large, then that's good, it's more efficient. If the profit is small and the drawdown is large, occurring during trading, then that's not very good, it's very aggressive, and the risk of losses is greater than the potential profit. Therefore, aim to make settings where the profit is greater than the drawdown. And the last tab is the tab Journal. This is more technical information, where Metatrader reports on the opening, closing, and transactions regarding connectivity. We don't particularly need this tab. So we have gone through the main settings of the tester with you. How to better configure the robot. I have a separate video on this, check it out on the channel. If you've already seen it, follow my other releases, hit the bell, subscribe, and don't forget to like. This will help my channel, and I hope I have answered some of your questions. If there are any other features you're interested in, write in the comments and I'll make future videos about them. There are so many features, especially for professionals and beginners. I believe I've explained everything clearly. Successful trading is trading with pleasure. Goodbye.